Hey guys, welcome back. I just concluded my 15-day challenge for 15 days straight of having YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels. And it feels pretty good to do that every day, although it can be a little bit tedious sometimes. Um, that said, from here, I'll just be commenting on, the usual, like in terms of like politics and things that are going on in the United States and more locally, and things that maybe matter to me, I guess, and hopefully matter to you if you're sticking around and watching. These days, actually, I was thinking about education because, of course, I'm involved in that, but like personal education and how to deal with like the gaping holes in my studies. Um, Now, like religiously speaking, from a Muslim perspective, I'm a convert to Islam, and um, when I became a Muslim, at that time there weren't really uh, like I guess guides or ways that could benefit like the new Muslim in terms of like what they should learn. There were like many groups calling you to groupism, but there weren't many like guides to what you should be studying and for how long and for how much. So like one thing I wanted to address right now, like in part of this talk, is if you're somebody who's new to Islam, what you should be studying, or if you're newly practicing, maybe from a background that's not an Arabic speaking background. So for me, there are three main categories that I would focus on if I were a new Muslim. And those three are, of course, your basic rules of worship and your rules of interacting with people. In Arabic, they call this fiqh. Commonly spelled in English as Fiqh. And when it comes to fiqh, there are different schools that are available to follow. Pick one and stick with it. And that's easier said than done. If you're confused about which one to choose from, read about like how the legal school is formed and which one you agree with the most, if that's the case. And if you have a community that's all kind of like one school, though, I would recommend sticking to that school. After you've done that, and again, like that doesn't take too long, by the way. Some people get overwhelmed. I'm talking about basic primer texts, basic texts on how to do your worship properly and how to do your daily interactions with people, like in terms of business properly. That could take you, if you're a fast reader, a day or two. And if you really want to take your time with it and flesh it out, it could take like a week or maybe 2 weeks. It just depends on you. Again, for the basic primer texts, I'm not talking about going into like an intermediate text or whatever. And you may never actually have to do that. Aside from that, too, you should have your basic beliefs locked in. What does a Muslim person believe? And there are basic texts that are available for that. So like Aqidah Tahawiyya is a classic one that everybody kind of agrees on. And there are many more other ones that are available. Aqidah Wasatiyya. These are basic books of Islamic belief that most people are pretty confident and sound with, and that are considered to be authentic across the board. And from there, guys, so those are the things, and you can actually study those two main subjects in English. Like, you don't actually need Arabic to understand the basics of those. Again, you don't need Arabic for the basics of those. When you want to get to more really advanced matters, if you ever want to, then you would need some Arabic. But again, I think before I continue to the third topic, one of the biggest pitfalls that we fall into is trying to learn every angle of everything, and we get like a lot of breadth of knowledge. We know like a lot of topical knowledge about many different schools and things like that, but with almost no depth. And this is a huge issue for a lot of converts. The third thing that will connect you to the deen, to the religion, is learning how to read the Quran properly in Arabic. This will be the biggest challenge for you to overcome, and it could be a hurdle for some, but it's worth it to work on it. And this will take the most time for you. So focus on the first two as well as the third one. Step one is your beliefs. Step two is the law. And then, of course, step three is really connecting to the Quran. And that will take you time. It depends on how much time you have. If you're a young person and you have like zero responsibilities for other people, then you could get that done quite quickly. If you are somebody who is a little bit older or mature or has someone who has responsibilities, this can take time. And you don't have to rush it, but you should be one of the people that can really like enjoy Ramadan by finishing Quran. So I really recommend, if you're a convert to Islam, sit down with somebody who's trained, not just a random guy. And here's another pitfall. A lot of people say, oh, I can teach you Arabic, right? But they don't know much past alif, ba, ta, tha, the basic alphabet and connecting the letters. That's important, of course, but you need someone who can teach you Quran with the proper rules of recitation. We call those rules of recitation tajweed. Tajweed just means the proper rules of recitation. It's the science of reciting the Quran properly. And there are different modes of recitation. We don't have to go into depth and detail, but the most popular mode nowadays is something called Hafs and Asam, I believe. But there are other ones that are popular in different regions. Like in North Africa, I believe they read Warsh, the Warsh mode of reading the Quran. Pick one, but of course Hafs, I think, is going to be the main one that you study. Guys, I think that those are my 3 pointers, or the 3 things that you should tackle if you're new to Islam or newly practicing. Everything else really is just kind of, I wouldn't say a waste of time, but it's kind of a waste of time. It's like a deception when you start reading about this school and this approach and that approach when you don't have your basics down. And that said, like for me, I'm still like, I'm more interested now in learning, pardon the drive-by here, the car driving by. I'm more interested now in learning about economics, practically speaking, and how that can be applied here and now, not historically, but here and now. So like, what are the here and now economic fields that we should be studying as Muslim people and that we can benefit from? And that's a little bit more challenging because the resources on that I haven't found as readily available. And for me, there's like what I've grown up with and my approach and what I expect from the nation state. But then there's even the question is like, is the nation state really something that we should be, like, how do we deal with that as Muslims? Because the nation state is something relatively new for the whole world, right? The whole idea of a nation state. We used to have empires and we had the Khilafah, right? So we had like a different kind of government before. And now we have something called a nation state. So how do we as Muslim people interact in the nation state? And how do we conduct our business in the nation state? This is a huge issue, guys. And it's a complicated one because with the modern nation state that we have, almost all Muslim countries follow the Western form of economics. And that is rooted in interest transactions. So most banking systems, if not all banking systems around the world, with the exception of just a small handful, are rooted in interest, which is categorically not permitted for us, something that we say is haram. How do we navigate that? Finding a place to live. If you want to have a house, almost all houses are paid for via mortgage. So if you've taken out a mortgage, this is again something that's considered to be an impermissible transaction. Like a huge impermissibility. Actually, interest is a huge problem for us. So just like navigating these topics in the 21st century in these kind of business transactions, like how do we do it? And I feel like those questions are things that I'm interested in finding the answers for, but I don't have the answers for them yet. And that said, if anybody does have any resources on those topics, please feel free to put them forward in the comment section or send them through to me through a private message on any of my social media platforms. So that's what I'm interested in. I do believe that the nation state does have a role, for example, in providing free healthcare. Does that jive with Islam? I'm not certain. It kind of seems like it makes sense to me, but again, I don't know. So for example, free healthcare, taxpayer paid for healthcare, taxpayer paid for education. These types of things I feel like should be provided for through our hard work and effort in the nation. And I don't know what Islam says about those things. So that's basically where I'm scratching my head nowadays. Anyways, guys, there's a lot going on in the world. As you know, like things never seem to settle down, and they haven't settled down for a while now. But now I feel like it's accelerating. So I will try to keep posting regularly and try not to let the news get me down. I was watching another vlog the other day of somebody who's involved in philosophy and things like that, and he said that he basically tuned out the news like 5 years ago. He turned off his TV and his news 5 years ago completely. So he only hears news through his friends and through his acquaintances. I'm not sure if I want to go that far And there is benefit in knowing what's going on, but to be honest with you, there's been a lot of bad news recently, so it's hard to stay positive with that. But anyways, guys, that's not the topic today. The topic is, of course, education, and mostly like Muslim education, Islamic education, things like that. If anything here seems odd or unclear, please send me a message as well. And if you feel like I have erred in any way, please also send that through so I can correct myself and not live in that error. Thanks, guys. Take care. Assalamu alaikum. Bye-bye.